Hey guys, Nux here, and today we're back to do another video on Sonic the Hedgehog. What's today's topic? Let's talk about it. So what I wanted to do is kind of a recap of just some of the news with Sonic lately, as while I did indeed say I was going to take a break till we get closer to the release of both Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces, I still have some stuff I want to get out before we reach that point. So while my opinion hasn't really changed since the last time we talked, there is some stuff I want to touch on in this video, and as opposed to being more of analysis, it's going to be talking about some things that I feel are more so on my chest that I want to get out. It's going to be very much opinionated in my eyes at least, and it's definitely going to try and make a lot of points. Sonic Forces as of right now really is a mess of a game. A move that I predicted yet didn't expect in the way it happened. To recap, I made the call that Forces would basically be Generations 2 because I figured that is what Sega would try to replicate themselves. Generations was basically the last really good Sonic game, and rather than work off of it though, Sega just wanted to copy and paste its success. But it appears that that's not exactly working in their favor. See, what Sega has basically actually set themselves up for is more of another Sonic Lost World. A game with no clear direction and just mix-mashing random things together they think might work to get a quick success. No longer is it about just making a good game or just any passion at all, it's all a mess because Sega and Sonic Team are being foolish. And the latest evidence to this mix-mashing and just weird tone with Forces is Infinite. Now when I first heard that this new villain called Infinite would be a thing, I imagined he'd be a case similar to past new villains such as the Deadly Six, Dark Gaia, Chaos, etc. Where basically the monster or monsters worked for Eggman for a bit, then at some point betray him later in the story and try to kill Sonic their own way, only to be defeated. The end. And I'm pretty sure Infinite will be a similar story. But what throws me off about Infinite is his sudden tone shift with Sonic Forces. So to help us get an idea of what Infinite's character might be like with Sonic Forces, Sonic Team released a theme song for Infinite along with a new trailer about him, and let's take a listen to his theme song and try and get an idea of the character. The leading instrumental was very pop-like and electronic. See, lately, some of the Sonic Forces tracks have adapted this popsy electronic sound, such as the songs in Park Avenue, and it's even made its way into other branches of Sonic, such as the Mania trailer themes that are done by the group Hyper Potions. Yeah, remember those guys? The guys that performed in the opening of the 25th anniversary? They actually do some work for Sonic now. And I'm going to be honest, I absolutely can't stand this popsy electronic sound with Sonic. It just doesn't fit Sonic's persona of how it was built up, which was very stylish and always filled with personality. This popsy crap just sounds like, royally free music or something like that, and it just doesn't fit with Sonic. And the only reason some people even say this music sounds great is because, of course, Sonic is involved with it. But minus that, then we get to the drop of Infinite's theme song and the actual content of it. My jaw legitimately dropped when I first heard this theme. After rock taking such a backseat in Sonic in terms of music genres go lately, Sega just throws in some hardcore rock song and Forces out of nowhere. It's just so jarring considering the rest of the soundtrack, minus maybe the main theme and Modern Park Avenue, sounds so completely different. Now, with the reception to this theme, there are two camps basically. Those who find it good because, whoa, Sonic has edgy music again! And those who find it bad because, it sounds too edgy. Where do I sit? I honestly am pretty confused upon listening to this theme, because, to be honest, this is what all the complaining of lack of rock has led to, Sega putting out a rock song again. But I gotta be real, it's just not satisfying. This song doesn't feel natural, if that makes any sense. It just feels like Sega grabbed some 2000s rock song that's used in AMVs or something and threw it in just to satisfy adventure fans and other types of fans who wanted rock back in the Sonic. It doesn't feel like something composed with the actual heart and soul of original Sonic rock songs that they're trying to appeal to. And the worst part is, some adventure fans have bought this so easily. Yeah, the spirit of Adventure Sonic is back. No, it isn't. The rest of the soundtrack in game doesn't even match with this tone as much. Sega still has classic Sonic plaguing this game, and with him has added classic stages and bosses, and it's just so much of a mess with this game. And it doesn't help that the reception of even the gameplay has gone down in quality. Instead of being similar to Generations as I thought it was going to be, it's actually more like Colors, where it's still boost and all that, but it's nerfed multiple elements including the light speed dash, drifting, and things such as that. So Forces, rather than setting itself up to be Generations 2 like I thought, where it's going with a gameplay style that's safe and consistent and they're just going to build off upon that, no. Sega has actually more so chosen to set themselves up for another Sonic Lost World, in that it's a game with no clear direction or idea what it's doing, and they're just going to throw many things into a pot and hope that it works. And funny enough, most people are actually acknowledging these problems for once and calling them out, but it's especially more so done in comparison to Sonic Mania. Yeah, let's talk about Sonic Mania. Oh boy, I'm really playing on fire now. So the main reason Forces seems to be getting hate right now is due to comparisons to Sonic Mania, which apparently is the game that is the true Sonic experience we want, and is doing every single thing right. And so far, Mania does seem to be doing a lot right, admittedly. It was confirmed to have original special stages instead of, God forbid, the half pipe again, or any other rehashed special stage. And it is a fair pricing. Plus, the new zones that we have seen so far are pretty good. So what's the problem? There's no problem with Sonic Mania itself, but the problem is, I just literally do not see Sonic Mania as the greatest thing since sliced bread. See, the reason why Forces hate has arisen suddenly is for the sole reason of giving more credit to Manians for some people. And in my eyes, it's good because you're giving criticism and asking for better in some sense, but some fans are doing this just because Forces is a modern Sonic game and Mania is the classic Sonic game. And that honestly wouldn't bother me as much if it wasn't done for such dumb reasons. For starters, fans once again falling for the trap of nostalgia and praising it like the next coming of Jesus just because they want to feel the nostalgia rush. Like, if you're actually excited for the elements of Mania because you think it's actually cool, that's cool. But a lot of people don't. And it factors in the one reason why I am just not that excited for Mania. Sonic Mania heavily banks on that nostalgia for the classic Sonic games. 60% of the game's zones are classic. Zones that, as an overall Sonic fan, I've already played to death. And I'm pretty sure many of you have too. Yes, they have unique twists and especially quite the amazing music. But all this effort is just a piece of what a classic Sonic fan like me would want. While I hate Sonic 4 now, I like the idea of Sonic 4 being a progressive sequel more so, continuing forward in a modern fashion, with all new stages, a simple yet different story, etc. Things of that nature. And Mania does hit a lot of those things. You can tell the team wants to make a really good 2D styled Sonic game. The actual new zones are pretty stylish, and the fact that they even take inspiration from actual cancelled Sonic zones too is even more perfect. The music, as I said, is the best Sonic music in years. The multiple playable characters are there with Tails and Knuckles as alternatives to Sonic. It's just got so much right, but what is holding it back in my eyes? The thing I feel like is holding Sonic Mania back is Sonic Team and their over-reliance on nostalgia. Iizuka is even the one who insisted the team insert 60% classic zones, including Green Hill Zone. like we haven't played that zone a ton of times already. There's also this obsession with the classic Sonic. The design is so much more amazing, even though the only main differences are height and eye color and other smaller details. It's not that crazy, guys. It's especially when we all know Sega, Sonic Team, and the others can do so much more than this, especially Sonic Team, who acts like they're so pathetic at this point. They can't even make a 2D game themselves, as Mania is being made by a team of fans, which is probably a real reason they want to promote it and shun 3D gameplay so badly, because they can't even do neither gameplay style. So that brings me to my second reasoning on this hatred for this Mania versus Forces war. It's just another ploy to push their dumb modern versus classic Sonic agenda that's built up over the years and taken full force over the fanbase's heads. There's two Sonics and they're two different characters. For the love of God, Sonic is just Sonic, y'all. People need to delete this nonsense because all it did was turn the fanbase against itself and the series against itself. People keep separating themselves through walls of Sonic like we have no idea what 2D or 3D Sonic is like, and we've never played either before. And that goes for both sides, considering that as a fan of Sonic overall, yes, I've played 2D Sonic games before. I've played 3D Sonic games before. But Mania is the true Sonic 4, and we've waited years for it. Yeah, I understand classic fans, except for the fact that as an actual classic fan myself, have you guys forgotten all the attempts at 2D pander and alternatives there are? We've had the fan game community, which got to the point of making multiple full-scale quality 2D games, such as Sonic Before the Sequel or Sonic After the Sequel by the Late for Part team. We had so much 2D that it's made its way into the modern 3D games. And don't even try and lie and say we haven't had 2D properly in Sonic since the Genesis era, when you know dang well that games like the Advance Trilogy or the Rush Duo exist, and other 2D alternatives for Sonic. Sega and Sonic Team trying to use the nostalgia of Sonic to get back to Sonic's roots is not a new concept. It's something we've seen so much that it just baffles me how people act like we haven't seen any attempts to bring back classic Sonic. And I'm confused at how everyone is just magically a classic Sonic fan all of a sudden, and a professional at it. Oh wait, some people aren't even Sonic fans to begin with. Some people have never liked Sonic. And recently, one trend I tend to see in videos is the mention of how Sonic's beginnings and fundamentals such as running fast and focusing on speed is all wrong. In other words, this is the uprising of the Sonic was never good people. But ironically, these same people suddenly come and say, well, maybe the Genesis games are good and maybe Colors and Generations were the only good Sonic games. How are you going to degrade the roots of Sonic, then turn around and say the games containing those roots aren't bad? It's hypocrisy, and Sonic fans have yet to notice themselves. It feels like Sonic fans would rather accept actual haters of the series than fans who critique it. And now what fans want to do is cover themselves with comparing Mania as a proper Sonic 4 to getting a proper Sonic Adventure 3, for example. When in reality, there's no way to understand that because classic Sonic is just Sonic. And Sega wants to treat anyone who might actually want Sonic Adventure 3 or any type of full 3D game now like they're crazy. Modern Sonic is just Sonic. Dreamcast Sonic is just Sonic. This dumb enigma of splitting Sonic into different series is just a ploy by Sega to separate the fanbase into their eyes so it's easier to correct their BS of dividing the fanbase so much in the first place. But in the end, it doesn't matter to me because I just see one Sonic and two gameplay styles of 2D and 3D. This mix mashing and garbage came about because of Sega. People need to take off their nostalgia goggles, forget this fictional classic versus modern Sonic war, and whatever personal attachment to Sonic you have, and realize these things. I apologize if I sound pissed off. Oh wait, I don't. Because at this point, I'm legitimately bothered by all this foolery in a series that should be as simple as Sonic the Hedgehog. I'll be honest and admit to lying about one thing. I lied about being all chill with all this. The Sonic series is so stressful to talk about sometimes. I try to be pretty calm and collected and pretty reasonable, but it's so hard to keep the calm and collected part of me in check when I've been fairly reasonable in what I talk about since the start. And the result is either people acting like I'm crazy or just this horrible mistreatment from people such as even Sega themselves. And again, while this video is opinion, this time it's not even about every single thing I want personally, but more it's just about calling this series out on so much of its crap lately. And the main reason I even still do this is simply because I still like Sonic. If I hated the classic era of Sonic, I wouldn't even be here, considering I grew up on the Genesis trilogy. So people saying I'm too young to understand are wrong. And I'm doing this because I want the series to improve. Again, if I really hated Sonic and wanted it to die, I wouldn't even be making this video. So as a conclusion to this ramble for Forces and Mania, I'm going to throw some predictions for how these games could do in the future, and what it could lead the Sonic series towards. I predict that Mania will do well, at least review-wise, for sure. While I don't like the overabundance of nostalgia, thanks to this new team of passionate fans, the quality is there, and it will earn good reviews. What will this lead to? Most likely a classic Sonic sub-series. I like to think of it as Sonic's new Super Mario Bros. My main hope is hopefully it evolves to a full-fledged new 2D game series with new zones, no nostalgia, and just all types of original concepts in building Sonic forward. No more reliance on Green Hill Zone or all this old stuff. Leave it in the past, let it rest, and focus on the now. That would be so great if they could just do that. Minus that though, in terms of how Mania will sell, it's completely up in the air. It being so cheap and multi-platform definitely helps. But the all-digital factor does hurt in some ways, especially with lack of advertisement, as things like that were Sonic 4's downfall. But with Forces, its future is so much more murkier. I feel it will get mixed reviews and also its sales will be in the air as a result. Will it kill modern Sonic though? No. As much as I'm sure some classic fanboys would love that, it won't happen. Because Sonic still needs multiple branches considering it's one of the sole biggest series Sega has left. Without modern Sonic, the spin-offs kinda die too, and unless Sega wants to suicide, they won't do that. But I feel like the mixed reception of Forces will confuse Sega again, and it will lead to more experimentation. Even though in my eyes the solution would just be to have full 3D modern Sonic with no nostalgia for those who want to see Sonic move forward with his life, and have the Mania series be its own branch for classic fans, which is what should have been done in the first place. The addition of classic Sonic in Forces is even more useless considering classic fans hate Forces anyway, and hardcore classic fanboys will always hate the shift to anything Sonic that isn't classic related. Just keep the modern 3D games for modern fans and give classic fans new 2D games. It's so simple if you're going to split Sonic up like that, and keep the branding for this series overall as one as opposed to this stupid separation. Now if it were up to me, I'd keep designs of Sonic all modern all around and just leave the classic design in the past so that this obsession can just be more of a side thing instead of pulling the series back. But it's not going anywhere for now due to classic fanboys having nostalgia boners bigger than Gen 1ers somehow. Like I never thought I would even imagine that. The Sonic series is not going to move forward and improve if it just sits there and jerks off to its own nostalgia and its own past all the time. That's not how most video game series move forward. They don't move forward by referencing their prime so freaking much. And yes, I know there are multiple video game series that would be better if they did reference their prime, if they did take inspiration from their prime. That's totally fine. But when you do it so much as Sega has at this point, like look at Green Hill Zone for example as the prime example. We've seen it in so many games at this point, and it's even in both Mania and Forces. Let it go. And I know the reason why Sonic Team doesn't do this is because they're afraid of moving forward, and I understand that. But there are better ways to approach this and to move forward from the past than just clinging to the past so much. Alright guys, well, I think I've gotten my main point out that I've wanted to get out with this video. This video was more rant based around Forces and Mania because I had to get these things off my chest. I'm so tired of having to just sit there and be quiet during all this and just keep my thoughts tame for the sole fact of not offending every single Sonic fan. And at this point, I'm pretty sure I have offended most, if not many types of Sonic fans, but I don't care at this point because someone has to talk some sense in these categories and no one is doing so I'm just going to do it because I care about this series. It's just simple as that. I'm sorry for having to come back with such a negative video this time, but things are not all peachy and positive in my life all the time, so it needed to be said. I will be back with something a little less intense next time, no promises of course, but hoping to come back decently with this whole YouTube thing. This is Nux333 and I'm out. See you guys later.